Oh, okay. This is our audience, our family. Jessica's husband and her 5 kids who are at home. We just got back from skiing tonight, so we're pretty tired. But we are going to be her loving audience. All right, kids, don't touch the tripod. Go ahead and have a seat. And we're going to listen to Mom's presentation.
Just make sure I still have my notes. There we go. All right. So, have you ever wondered, with the world being as big as it is, if there is anything you as one person can do to make a difference? I'm here to tell you that, yes, you can. So you might live in a big city where there's a lot of people and you feel very small. Or you might live in a small town where there's not that many people and you think, I'm just one little person and we live in hardly anywhere, so it really doesn't matter. Well, everyone, no matter where they are, can make a difference. Oops, don't know how to go back. So let me introduce you to a man. His name's Nicholas Winton. You saw him for a very short period of time. He was a stockbroker. He was British. In 1938, he was about ready to go on a skiing trip to Switzerland, and he got a phone call. And the phone call was from his friend who was working in a refugee camp in Czechoslovakia. It was right after the beginning of the war, and Germany had just annexed Czechoslovakia, and they knew that the Nazis would be coming within a very short period of time. And the refugees were already heading, into Czechoslovakia from other places, and the conditions were horrible, and they knew the suffering was going to get worse. So his friend asked him if he would please come and help. So he did. He canceled his vacation and he went to help his friend, and he decided that there was something that he needed to do to help. In Germany, there was a group of people who had already started an effort to get the young children out of the country, the Jewish children mainly, and to get them to another country where they would be safe until the war was over, because it was a lot easier for parents to try to survive if they didn't have to worry about their children as well. So he decided that he would do something like that in Czechoslovakia because no one else was doing it. So from early 1939 until October of 1939, he organized, excuse the cat, he organized 9 trains and got them ready to transport children out of Czechoslovakia and at least out of the country, and then they would be able to get them to England, which was the only country up to this point that had decided to accept children. So he ended up mainly doing this by himself, but he would go to government officials and he would bribe them and convince them and persuade them to let these children out. And so sometimes they even had to forge paperwork in order to get the children out of the country, but he did. So this is one of the children that he was able to get out. So out of the 5,000 children that parents brought to him to ask if he could save, he was able to only save 669. Doesn't sound like very many, does it? And yet, it was still 669 children. One of his big heartbreaks was he had 9 trains, and then he got 8 of them out and got the children to England and adopted for at least a short period of time by English families. But the 9th train, it was full of children and all ready to pull out, and the Germans invaded, and that train full of children never made it. But he was able to get 8 out, so that was something. So he was just one man, but look at all the amazing things he was able to do. So I'm just going to paraphrase this story, and I just don't do a very good job of it, so I'm going to read it to you. You've probably heard it before. It said, a young man is walking along the ocean and sees a beach on which thousands and thousands of starfish have washed ashore. Further along, he sees an old man walking slowly and stooping often, picking up one starfish after another and tossing each one gently into the ocean. Why are you throwing starfish into the ocean? He asks. because the sun is up and the tide is going out, and if I don't throw them further in, they will die. But old man, don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and starfish all along it? You can't possibly save them all. You can't even save 1/10 of them. In fact, even if you work all day, your efforts won't make any difference at all. The old man listened calmly and then bent down to pick up another starfish and threw it into the sea. It made a difference to that one, he said. So, I want you to think about that for just a minute. Here's your starfish. I want you to think about those starfish. So, just like Nicholas Winton influenced people through his kindness, I want you to think for a minute about the influence that you have on people. You'll notice here that there's ripples. When each of us makes an action or makes a choice, there's a ripple that goes from that action to other people. So if our choice in a way to treat someone else has to do with anger, the ripple from that choice is going to be anger and negative things that continue onward. It might cause damage to that person, or at least unhappiness. And that's going to be the effect. So what about someone like Nicholas Winton? What is the effect that goes from treating people with compassion and kindness? Because he lived at a time when he saw the ripple effects that would go from treating people with anger. The whole World War II was full of that. People treating each other with anger and hatred and distrust. And eventually 6 million people died from it. Just the Jews, not to mention all the people who died in the war. So when we treat each other with compassion, oh goodness, what is the effect? So I want you to think for a minute what you as one person can do. So I want you to close your eyes for a minute. I want you to think of somebody that you know of who needs some help. Close your eyes. Thank you. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I want you to think of a person and think of something that you could do, small as you are, to help them. Okay, there's your 30 seconds. Okay, you can open your eyes. Okay, well, let me show you a little bit about the good that Nicholas Winton did. Here's a little video clip.
All the letters. But back here is the list of all the children. This is Vera Diamant, now Vera Gissing. We did find her name on his list. Vera Gissing is with us here tonight. Hello, Vera. And I should tell you that you are actually sitting next to Nicholas Winton.
And it was just so wonderful, so terribly, terribly touching.
Can I ask, is there anyone in our audience tonight who owes their life to Nicholas Winton? If so, could you stand up, please?
So he did a lot of good. Oops. So, those people were some of those 669 little children that he saved. But, oh goodness.
You're right clicking.
I know.
Click on the left side of the mouse.
There we go. Alright, so he made a difference to that one. Just like that one little starfish. For her, it made all the difference in the world that he did what he did. And I'll tell you, for 50 years he didn't tell anyone what he had done. A few people, like his friend in that refugee camp, knew because they were involved with it, but he didn't go home and say, oh, look at this amazing thing I did. For 50 years he didn't say anything, and even then he didn't, but his wife found his scrapbook, you know those pages that that woman in the video were turning? That was his journal, his scrapbook that he kept, and his wife found it in the attic and said, what is this? And got him to tell this story, and then she told the story to someone else, and then they were able to start gathering the people who he had helped to find out how many of them had really made it. And guess what? 6,000 people, those people and their descendants all owe their lives to him. So just one little person, did he make a difference? He made a huge difference. So you may not be able to touch everyone, just like all those starfish on the beach, but you can touch someone. So with the little ripples that go out from one little action, I want you to think about what you will do. You can turn it off.
Wow.
Turn it off.